Hi, I'm Sophia, and for my cultural immersion project, I was choosing between transgenders, alcoholics, men as a gender, African Americans, and Muslims. I decided to do transgenders because I have a cousin who's transgender, and it's just really interesting to me, and I wanted to know how to relate to them a little bit more and to see what they go through on a day-to-day basis and get a little bit more history of what they go through. Um, so some of the first recorded instances of transgender individuals come from ancient Asia, and I found that really interesting because I feel like they have a very strict cultural binary in a sense, and so I just didn't really expect that. Um, but the word transgender first appeared in print in American English in 1965, but some of the dates that it went back to just identifying as a transgender was in the 1600s. And some people see this phenomenon as being new and fresh within many cultures, but it actually has been around for a long time. But right now, it's kind of been an epidemic because so many people are coming out and it's more acceptable. And I think that through the years it's gotten more acceptable, and back then it had to be hidden because it wasn't right or normal for a lot of cultures, and there would have been severe punishments had anybody come out. And many people believe that the LGBTQ community choose the lives that they live, and that they're actually just rebelling against society, and they decided that this is how they were going to be. But they say that this is the way that they were born, and they're just expressing what they truly feel inside, and they're not happy unless that's what they're doing. And in the 20th and 21st centuries, this is when trans people started to get advanced sex reassignment surgeries, and the activism for transgenders has really become an epidemic, not just throughout America, but the world as a whole. It's been a lot more acceptable to come out, I guess you could say. So some of the emergent experiences, I read Chaz Bono's story of how he became a man. And that was really interesting to read because, he comes from a privileged family. And so I think that was an interesting take on it because he does have money and his parents are in the limelight. So, not all trans people are lucky enough to go through their transition with money with them because it costs a lot to have gender reassignment surgery and take testosterone or estrogen. So, not all trans people are lucky enough to do the transition at all. So I chose this book because there's a lot of controversy behind it. And I think trans people were glad that he came out, but in the way that he did it and the book that he was writing was kind of, I think, shed the wrong light or didn't shed enough light on the situation. And I was reading some reviews because I was interested to see how other people took the book. And, they said similar things, just that they didn't really like how he portrayed trans people, and he didn't, tell stories very elaborately. And he just didn't make them look like the greatest. And he just was being or acting very privileged. And so his story was only a privileged side of it and not necessarily a real side of somebody, a normal transgender. So that was a really interesting book to read. And the film that I decided to watch was Boys Don't Cry. And some major themes in this movie included having the courage to be yourself, which, that's an important thing no matter what culture culture you come from or the background that you have. It's important to have that. And it gave insight to gender binary roles and the relationship that the LGBTQ community has with social class, race, and gender roles in themselves. And I think that every culture has different ideas of those, and their roles are played very differently within them. So that was interesting. And this movie gave insight to the internal struggles that kids go through being trans, and not only having to come out to their families or whatever, but having to accept themselves and realizing that it's okay to be trans or in the LGBTQ community, which I think that's hard for some kids to understand. And my cousin is trans, and so, she came out as a lesbian, and then a few years later, then she, came out as trans. So I think that that happens for quite a few people, because it's not always easy to say fully that you are trans. And the event that I went to was called the White Party. It's in Palm Springs. And this event is a gay dance music festival. So it's not so much as LA Pride, like a walk, but it does have over 30,000 people there. And so that was really interesting. But it was cool to see because, the music really brought people together, and no matter the differences, they all are brought together because they're in the LGBTQ community, but they're also brought together just by the music. And I was there, obviously, and that was super super interesting to watch the interactions. And I was kind of taken aback by the reaction that I got, because it was very open, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be, and I was kind of nervous to go, but it went really well, and I'm glad that I had the experience and I got to do that. And I know that some other cultural groups aren't as open as that, and it can be hard. I'm half Mexican, and, I go into Mexican restaurants and I'm given, a sideways look, or people just don't think I know what I'm talking about when I say that I know Spanish, or just different things like that, where I feel judged in my own culture, and that's something that I identify with, but yet I'm kind of on the outs of it. So that was interesting to me. I interviewed a man named Landon, and he was super open and able to tell his story and feel comfortable with me. So I thought that was super cool. But he did talk about how he knows that people do judge him, and that it's not okay, but he wants to be open with people, so then they can make connections with him and feel more connected to him as a human, and humanize him, and not commercialize him or just see him as this thing that they think that they know but they don't really know. So we talked about the struggles that he went through as a child and how that shaped him into who he is today, which I also found very beneficial for me, because I was able to relate that back to my cousin and see some of the struggles that he most likely went through. And he didn't have anybody else there. But he also said that the LGBTQ community is more open because they want to be accepted by people, and to let people know that they're not as different as they think. And it's very important to them for people not to be ignorant about their culture, and they want to be as open and like a window for people to just see and understand and be able to connect with and not judge them. Another thing he stressed to me is that it's not a glamorous lifestyle. And like I said, I think a lot of people commercialize different cultures, and, they think that again, the LGBTQ community is choosing this lifestyle, but he feels the pain of it every day. And if this was an easy thing to do and an easy choice to make, why wouldn't everybody choose it? So I think that was something that really hit home to me, is that, they're here at this dance festival. It's fun. They're with other people that are like them, but the pain of the life that he's living is there with him every other day that he's out there and with people that are very different than him. So my summary and synthesis, I learned a lot about this group of people, and I learned that they're just like anyone else, and they have more public struggles, but they also struggle internally with more issues than a lot of people do. And when it comes to working with families that have gone through this or any other cultural difference, because I think that was also something that I took away, that every culture has different things that they have to struggle with and go through, and how we as an American society, push our beliefs onto other people, and that's not okay. So I think it's important to take that into consideration and be sensitive with the things you say or the actions that you take within your classroom. And you need to make sure that you're including all possible differences that there could be, and let students learn from each other. I think that that's a big thing too, to allow students to have the free space and time to bring in different things from their cultures, and even allow the parents to come in and speak if they feel comfortable enough or if they want to, and let the kids know that it's okay to be different. And some of those kids, might like the other cultures, or maybe they've never tried a food from that culture and that ends up being their favorite food. So I think that that could be a really beneficial learning experience for everyone in the class. And it's important to be inclusive, again, not only with trans or Mexicans or African Americans or whoever, but, with kids that have special needs. It's important to be inclusive to everyone that has a difference within them. And we have, obviously, everybody is different. And I think that's also very important to a classroom, because everybody brings something different to the table. And families have so many different scenarios nowadays. Like, there is so many interracial couples, trans people, the whole 9 yards. You're going to find it within your classroom. And like I said, everybody is able to bring something different and share a new view or experience or whatever. So it's important to take them into consideration and work with them to get the best possible result in your classroom, because you can learn so much from those people. I really did enjoy this project because it really opened my eyes, and I want to be a kid psychologist. So it helped for me to see the different kinds of issues that I could be dealing with, or having these people come in and talking to me about how, people don't accept their child at school, or, they need help identifying, and so I think that this was a really good way for me to see some of the different situations that I might come across within my career. And it taught me how to deal with them all in a professional and sensitive way, because just because I don't identify with that culture, doesn't mean that they're less than or less important or anything. They deserve to be heard. And yeah, so thanks for watching.